welcome to another edition of Beer for Breakfast ABV. I am Danielle. I am on the Moog Show at 91X Monday through Friday from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. As always, I have my beer partner in crime, Paul Segura, the Brewmaster of Research and Development over at Karl Strauss. And we are on location today. We are at Groundswell Brewing in Chula Vista. This is the latest tasting room to open, and we have head brewer Chris with us. How's it going?
It's going.
I was told to call you Giggles, but I'm doing it once and then that's it.
You can.
And then that was how I was introduced
My name is Chris, but yeah.
He's probably heard all sorts of plays on his last name.
I was in the Army once upon a time, so the basic training nicknames were...
I
can't say any of them here, but they're pretty good. Really good.
Well, let's dive right into our first beer, and as we move along, we'll kind of get a little bit of information about Groundswell. This is the third location to open up. So what are we starting out with? Right?
South Bay.
Mr. South Bay over here. You know, do you guys share that you put some South in your mouth with your buddies across the street?
I mean, they're always putting South in their mouth across the street, so I guess we can share that.
In case you were unaware, Three Punk Ales, who have also been on Beer for Breakfast, it's right across the street. So very first beer, what are we getting into here?
This is actually our newest beer. So this is cream ale. It's pretty basic. You know, it's like if one of the big macro beers kind of tasted like a beer.
We always have to cheers.
Cheers,
Mm-hmm.
cheers.
Cheers. What are you calling your cream ale here?
For the moment, we're calling it cream ale.
Oh,
just because.
that's very inventive of you.
Yeah, we wanted to make it. Total disclosure. I'm trying to come up with either a clever name or just keep it cream ale, because I kind of have another thing that's going to segue off the end of this, where I do like an unfiltered version and kind of switch out some of the noble hops, because it has just enough hop flavor for you to know that it's there. So it's about like the blankest canvas, it seems like. So are
you going ale yeast at sort of lager fermentation temperatures?
It's cal yeast at not quite lager, but down in low 60s.
Low 60s, okay.
Yeah, I just got to catch it at the end so it cleans up. And
it's super clean.
Thank you.
There's like you. I can see you.
It's also it's bright also.
Mm-hmm.
It could be brighter too.
I like it. It's got a nice bitterness that lingers after the sip.
I wanted it to be more like like a craft cream ale, right? It's kind of a funny thing because it's supposed to be a very, very similar to the big mass-produced style, but I want it to be, it needs to be worth $4. We're gonna have it be a cheaper beer all the time. It's basically like a happy hour beer kind of all the time. And if somebody wants to come and have lunch, they can drink a couple of these and make their way back to work.
What's the ABV on it?
4.2.
Oh, so really, really low. And then what's the IBU on it?
I think it's 10.
Oh, so okay.
Yeah.
All right. So super, super
it's
low.
like 10 or 11.
Board says 11, so
11.
Yeah,
all right. Yeah,
you're there.
Perfect.
That column's blocking the
stupid column.
part of it.
So this is probably the gateway beer for the people who Chula Vista, the whole craft beer thing down here is kind of new, right?
Yeah,
so people who are coming in.
The truth is, a lot of people like that beer. The big. I mean, they like it, and this is just an easy way to say like this isn't that, but it's right in there with it.
This is perfect for the summer. Like
you can
really nice, crisp beer. It's hot outside. I can have a bunch of these and still be able to function throughout my day.
And this, it's usually corn or rice that goes into these. So I decided to go with rice, just because it's appropriate in the style when you can taste that corn flavor. But a lot of times people kind of mistake that for DMS.
Yeah, it's true.
And so I figured just kind of pull that out.
The rice, there's no mistaking it. The rice just dries it out and has a really nice.
And it definitely doesn't add any color. So
right, yeah.
I have a question for both of you as brewers. Recently, I have gotten into this Michelada bloody beer kick. I think it's delicious, and I feel like this would be a great beer for it. Do you?
Sacrilege.
That's my question. Is it blasphemy to add to your beers as craft brewers? How do you feel about that?
I feel both ways. It's tough because sometimes I'm like, you shouldn't do that. Don't do that. But then sometimes it just tastes so good, so it's tough,
So the brewer side of you says don't do that, but just the beer drinker side of you is like, but it's so good.
Yeah, we might end up doing something along those lines once in a while to have. It's fun. I think it's good if it's fun, but if you're recreating yourself as like a Michelada producing craft brewery, maybe that's crossing the line a little bit.
I'm kind of. I try to keep an open mind about it. I think with craft beer cocktails in general, I try to keep an open mind. I've had some really good ones, and I've had some kind of not so good ones. But that one, that one reaches a broad audience. That one I could see drawing more people into the sort of craft community and
The Radler kind of thing.
Yeah.
Too, like that the Radler, it's just goes the other way. It's sweet and more like soda, less savory. So we might do something like that too once in a while.
I think there's a time and a place for that.
Yeah, exactly.
And the michelada.
If it's 100
A Sunday
degrees
morning.
If it's 100 degrees out in the middle of the summer, I don't think anyone's going to say, you really shouldn't put grapefruit soda in.
How dare you?
It rarely gets
Yeah.
down or up that high in Chula Vista or San
Oh,
Diego.
in Santee,
Well, Santee.
Yeah.
Right. So going over the locations
right.
for Groundswell, we are in the tasting room in Chula Vista, 3rd Avenue. There is the main production facility as well as tasting room in Santee. I spent some time there. Love that place. And then there's the original tasting room in Grantville.
Yep, right up the road from Benchmark.
Perfect. So no matter what part of town you're in, you can totally get to Groundswell very, very easily. So into the next beer. This looks a little dark.
Is the cream ale a year-round beer, a flagship beer?
That's going to be, we're going to make it all the time.
Okay.
It's great. We're doing some contract brewing, kind of keep the tanks full. It's a large facility. It's a good beer to prop yeast with, for sure. So it's like I can always keep Cal healthy and hanging around with this. So plus, I mean, honestly, with that part of town, there's kind of a stigma for East County to drink, really light-colored macro beers, and so now they have a little bit of an option right there, and so I think I'll keep going with it, unless people hate it, and then.
No, I think that this is a perfect beer for East County. And one of the things that I loved about the patrons out in Santee was it's just these blue-collar working people who just want a good beer. They just want a good beer to just like sit there and hang out. And I thought that was one of the best parts of the crowd out there in Santee.
Yeah, it's a good mix because there's, Tyson from O'Brien's lives like pretty close by, and
guy.
so you have
That
that
guy.
You have that guy coming in, but you have someone like that who obviously has a ton of knowledge and experience and has a high expectation when he has a beer, and you also have there's like a there's the cable company or something has a
AT&T
lot.
guys.
Yeah, it's like right
I
next
miss
to us.
them.
And
They
so
were awesome.
They come over in a pack, like 3 or 4 of them, and they'll have a couple beers and.
Steve,
Those guys.
Ed, Andy.
What about the Taylor Guitar guys? They're right around the corner.
Yeah.
Yep.
They might be making a stop on the way. We'll have to see. They might be stopping at Burning Beard or Pacific Islander or something.
Yeah, okay.
But they, it's a good mix. And so this is where I just want, if you want that, you can have this. You don't have to drink just IPAs and stouts. You can have something real light, or you can have both.
I like that. So
Well,
what
usually
is this?
people come in groups, so they're having something for everybody is kind of a
Yeah.
good idea, so that everybody's happy.
I want to make the palest beer I can make. That's about as pale as it gets.
I want to be able to see through
Yeah.
it.
All right.
So this guy, what are we working with here?
This is a dry stout, so it's a real basic grain bill. It's got like four ingredients, 5 ingredients. It's really
It's
just
opaque.
mostly 2-row roasted barley, flake barley, and then a little bit of some Carafa Special.
Ooh, it's got a nice coffee-like aroma coming off of this.
Yeah,
Slightly chocolatey.
I've had a couple of people text me and ask me what kind of coffee I use in it, and I'm like, that's an awesome compliment because there's no coffee in it.
There's no coffee in this?
No.
Oh, it totally smells like it.
Doesn't it? Oh, it's nice. It's got a nice round flavor.
Oh.
Kind of a good mouthfeel, really creamy.
Yeah, I want it to be, it's got that little bit of slickness and feel in it, and then it has to be dry, right? Because it's a dry stout, otherwise we're messing that part of it up. But just easy to drink. It's only 4.8%. So same thing, it's a stout. Like if you want to have all that roast and chocolate and all that going on, but you don't want to drink a coffee stout or an 8% or something like that, you can get
It's
on
a real
these.
trick to get the beer this dry with that amount of mouthfeel, isn't it?
It's a big pain in the ass. Yeah, I was actually really nervous because this is a beer that I made as a homebrew beer a bunch of times. And actually, I don't know how many years ago that was, but I won the stout category with this. And I was so confident that I was going to win that I was in line getting a beer when they were announcing the category. And so I had someone who was like, hey.
Oh, do I get the award or do I get my
they're like,
beer?
hey, you got an award out there. And I'm like, ooh. So like I'm walking out the door like an
Like,
idiot.
but my glass is still empty.
Yeah, but I made a bunch of crappy versions of this first, so this is probably like the 8th time I made it. First time on a professional scale.
Throw a bunch of oats
But it
in there.
was-
Kind of get
There's a
some
touch
wheat,
of oats.
some
The
protein.
flake barley.
Oh, flake barley.
Flake
okay.
barley, yeah, mostly. Because I was trying to, the way I started out was the flake barley, 2-row flake barley, roasted barley, and that was it. Like the most traditional dry stout. Yeah. And I made that, and it was okay. And then I just kind of started to go from there a little bit. So it was a little bit of oats, some Carafa One special instead of just all roasted barley to kind of bring the roast character down and like round out the chocolate part of it. So
lots of toastiness.
Yeah,
it's
I
really
like
good.
The roasty,
it's not
toasty.
so roasty that it kind of has that acrid finish that sometimes.
That's what I was worried about. That's what the original versions of it, because the gravity's so low. That's where the Carafa One special is dehusked, so that some of that bitterness is gone right there, and it just kind of kept. It's roasty, no mistaking it, but it's not like no burnt toasty roasty.
Do you guys offer this on nitro as well?
Not yet, but that is the next.
Gotta do this. Would be so good on nitro.
So you were a home brewer. Kind of, what is your brewing background? Because I know that you became the head brewer at Groundswell end of October. So kind of what got you into beer? How did we get to this point?
So in the fall of 1981, no.
So I was like, oh my goodness.
9 months before that, my dad drank a bunch of beer. And I grew up out in Alpine, and so I had a friend whose dad homebrewed, and we would steal his homebrew all the time. And
his name was Pat McElhenney.
Maybe. So it was, we were sort of exposed to beer that took us out of our comfort zone because, God, I just remember it was so bad. Like, it wasn't bad, right? But when you're whatever age you were back then,
you kind of do whatever for a buzz.
It was like, it was right here, and it wasn't bad. It was just tasted so much. Like, it just had so much flavor. I didn't know what to do with it. And then as years went on, there's a lot of you go to a bar and there's the same 4 beers everywhere. We also had a lot less options back in the early 2000s, and you only had like 6 22s to choose from, and one of them was a Smirnoff Ice. I mean, that's what it was.
Wow.
And so I moved from there to like Sierra Nevada, and kind of like the typical, I feel like I have the same story as everybody else with like the Red Nectar and all those Humboldt ales and stuff. And then as I got older, I just kind of kept going through it, and I knew them. I always had like a small connection to Alpine. It was my favorite beer, and I didn't even know how good it was. Like it was. Right? We didn't even know back then. I mean, and all these awards and everything over the years, and so I wanted to make beer like that. So I started to homebrew, and I started to bug Sean like crazy. I'm sure he's excited when I got a job at a brewery, so I could leave him alone. But I had a friend win a homebrew competition, like the Stone one, the big one, and I thought, being competitive, I was like, I bet I could do that. Like, I want to do that. So he taught me how to homebrew. From there, I just kind of kept doing it and lagging. I was an electrician, and that was my career, right? And I was good at it, and it was good money, so that's what I was going to do. And at some point, my wife was like, you hate this. And I was like, I didn't hate it, but I was liking it less and less every day. And the construction.
Sounds like an awesome lady.
Yeah, it was,
She's a keeper.
Yeah, I think it was just, we'd rather not, maybe we don't go on crazy vacations every year, but you just don't.
You don't hate your life.
Hate your life. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. And so I went for it, and I had helped out like at Alpine a bunch, just doing stuff randomly, and then I just rolled in a green flash one day, filled an application, shaved my beard. I shaved my beard for the interview, which they were all laughing at me. Like, you shaved for, I had like cuts on my neck, so I hadn't shaved in like 5 years or something. And I got a job as a keg washer, and this would have been like 5 years ago. And I just started washing kegs, and then all of a sudden my friends were like, you got a job at Green Flash? Like, oh, you didn't even say anything, you didn't need a recommendation. I was like, well, I just want to go get a job at a brewery, and see how it is. So I did that. After like 3 months, moved into the cellar. Really like that, because now I was doing stuff. I was like, I'm putting the yeast in this beer. Putting the dry hop in there. Yeah. And it was awesome. I was doing beer stuff. And then I had an awesome opportunity opened up at Pizza Port, Carlsbad Village. And so it was like, I didn't really intend. Like, I've worked at several places, but I never went to anywhere planning on not staying there very long. So this opportunity came up, and they don't hire from the outside a lot. And so the fact that I was going to go in as an assistant brewer I had to take that.
Huge, yeah.
So I did that, and that's a long commute from El Cajon to Carlsbad Village, especially when there's traffic. So I did that for a while. I went to GABF. We were lucky enough, or fortunate enough, to win a bronze for Z-Man in the export stout category. Mike, that was Mike's beer. Mike's first GABF medal too, I think, because I got to be a part of that, and it's named after his son, which is a really cool thing. And I my second time at GABF, first time with the brewery, and I got to go on stage, so it was like
That's exciting.
basically all downhill from there. But it's the extra, it was awesome. It was a really cool thing. So from there, that was just so far to drive, and I was spending the better part of 20 hours in the car, or more than that a week, and so. With my daughter being young, it was too far away. So I was friends with Ray. I said, hey, I'm looking for something. Maybe I'll come work at Fall for a while if you need some help. Because I did some electrical work for him too, even though I was like trying not to, but you know how to do it. So you just end up having to do it. And I worked there for a little bit. I actually broke my arm while I was working at Fall. I fell, not at work, and broke my arm and was off for a little bit. Went to hang out with Bill one day, early in the morning at McKellar, and that was that. Next thing you know, I was working there, and everything kind of progressed, and working my way up there, and had a lot of fun there. And then when this opportunity became available, the timing was perfect. I just stopped working there, and now I drive 5.5 miles to work.
Nice.
That's awesome.
So you've had your hand in some like really reputable breweries here in San
to.
Diego.
I wanted to figure out what the people were doing that I respected, and like if I liked your beer, I want to work for you, right? Like not so I can steal your idea, but so that I can see what you do. And so I feel with that group of breweries, like I've been lucky. Like I have really good friends, and like if it wasn't for my friends, I wouldn't be where I was at right now, or where I'm at right now, because they've all been so helpful. Sean, my friend Jason, the homebrewer that won Cherry Chocolate Stout at the Stone Homebrew Competition, he was the first one. Sean after that, and it was just every new person I met was willing to help me. So, I moved up very quickly, but I also pushed really hard. And I'm also I started a little bit older. I was like 31, when I started doing it. And so, it's like I'm washing kegs, and the dude next to me is telling me, like, he's pissed because his dad made crappy dinner last night, and I'm like...
You're like, bless your soul.
Okie dokie.
Bless your soul.
But it was like, we're in a different part of life, know, and so I was a little more urgent.
6 months in as head brewer at Groundswell, what have you brought to the table at Groundswell since being the head brewer?
A lot of swearing.
That was there before you got there, by the
You
way.
brought the old stout.
I brought in some experience, more like experience with QC, I think, because the bigger places, QC, everybody should have QC, but a lot of times it's not until you get to a certain scale that people will finally admit that and just go for it and commit the money to it. And so being at like Green Flash, they had a lab, a full-blown lab and everything. And then being able to make the connections between the smaller places and what they were doing. Coming to McKellar, and we were kind of like a hybrid in between. Yeah. And seeing like, okay, I have my lab experience now. I know like, okay, we obviously are pitching a little extra yeast, but it was because we didn't have as much testing equipment. So we're erring on the side of caution, and being able to kind of apply each of those approaches to where we're at now, because now we actually have a lab, and we have a super smart tasting room employee who can come and do all our cell counts and all our stuff for us. So we're on a pretty small scale in a large facility with access to like someone, and she's part-time. She comes in just when we need her, so it's great because we have a little bit of each of those things.
That's rad. Love it. Well, let's get into our last beer.
Oh, right.
What is this?
So this is Right Here, Right Now.
Right Here, Right Now.
Yeah. Which is...
I feel like you have to sing it when you say it.
This is a double IPA, right?
Yeah, this is...
All your beers are bright. They all look like they've been filtered.
Oh, man, just wait till Friday. You'll be...
What's on Friday?
So Friday, I made a beer called Got Anything Hazy.
Oh, this is the release that I saw that just happened, right?
Well,
so tell me about it.
So we, when I started, I said, what's the first? Well, here, let me first tell you about this beer a little bit. So this is just a big West Coast double IPA that you can sort of see through. Columbus Citra and mostly Mosaic. Definitely has it on Mosaic, but it's just 2-row Maris Otter and oats. And this is kind of like my idea of what, I really want to make this because this is my idea of what a double IPA is. It's
this beer
yellow.
will get you messed up.
Yeah.
Because I'm like drinking, I'm like, I could drink a million of these, and it's coming in at 9.1. Like this.
It's got some body and some sweetness, which masks.
Yeah, I tried to get this one. The bitterness is just, just in there enough to where it's definitely an IPA, you know that.
Yeah.
But I didn't want it to be a big, really bitter to where it just kind of keeps going.
Right.
I wanted to kind of be able to, I want to be tricky, you know, I want to trick you a little bit and be able to drink a lot of it.
It's kind of a
shouldn't
sniper.
drink a ton of it.
9%.
But you could, yeah, you could. I really like Bad Boy. And I don't have the recipe for Bad Boy. I'm not 100% sure of everything that's in Bad Boy. But I wanted a big 9% beer that made me as happy as when I go and have a Bad Boy. So that
I get it here in the shoulders.
yeah,
As
you
I
can
drink it,
definitely-
I'm like, oh.
You know, it's got some of the juiciness that, you know, some of the hazies kind of have.
Yeah, the Mosaic, and then I layer it, you know, I kind of, whenever I use more than one hop, I very rarely use equal amounts of both. I usually kind of layer them and try to get something from one, elevate or cover up something in another to bring something out. So this is mainly Mosaic with, and then Columbus after that, and then Citra is the least amount that's in there. But the Mosaic definitely, it pushes that juiciness, and I think the alcohol too, that little bit of alcohol sweetness kind of gives you that.
Yeah, it
That
doesn't
little
drink
bit.
like 9.
No.
It really, I can see this hurting people if they drink
Yeah,
a
we serve
bunch of
this.
them.
We serve this in a smaller. This is a smaller serving.
Good idea.
Smaller serving for sure.
Well, this is a great representation of Groundswell. Of course, you know,
We still have the regular
We
ones,
still
yeah.
have the Coors, the First Date Blonde, the Undulation White IPA. I know that you changed up the Quattro a little bit, which was my favorite beer, and I give it a pass. I give it a
Okay.
thumbs up. It's really good. And I also just want to point this one out. Your Mama's Boy, your guys' pale ale. It is really, really, really good.
That's actually, and that one's a cool story because it's. I don't know if you're familiar with Mama's Kitchen. Mm-hmm. So they do on Mother's Day, right? Which this will be my first year. So I'm just telling a story that somebody told me, but so Groundswell's always been affiliated and goes down there and is a part of it, and so they auction off. Groundswell donated like Be a Brewer for a Day sort of experience. They bid on it, and one of their volunteers who's really involved, he bid on it, bought it, and so him and his family, they all came out. It was awesome. They spent the whole entire day. He told me what he wanted because I kind of told him, you know, I'm going to make this, just kind of give me some guidance on what you want. He said he wanted to be kind of lighter, sort of fruity. I ended up coming with Mosaic and Centennial Pale Ale. And I basically made what would be or what could be a hazy IPA grist or hazy pale ale grist, and then just fermented it with Cal instead. So it's got a little more body and all that stuff, but $1 from every pint of that goes back to Mama's Day. They're gonna auction off again this year, so somebody else will get to come in and do something like that.
That's super
But
rad.
yeah, it was really
Very
cool
cool.
because they had a ton of input, and it was and he got to pick the name. So it was he picked Mama's Boy, and I was like, "You're Mama's Boy." So that's my fourth grade humor addition to it. So
Well, helping the community through beer, man, that's awesome. You know,
And it seems
I
like-
applaud you for that.
that's one thing I liked about. They were already doing it before I got here, and I definitely can appreciate that because you know, there's a lot of stuff that you can give back to, and
Heck yeah.
just kind of got to pick.
Right.
There's plenty of places that need
Well,
it.
it's cool
Right.
that it stays in the community also.
Yeah.
And it stays in
I didn't know
San
how big
Diego.
they were. I mean, they make so much food for people, and then they.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell any tales out of school here, but I think that they take over. The Meals on Wheels maybe doesn't do weekends, or they don't do weeks. They cover that, so
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah,
break
they
for them.
feed a
and
lot
that
of
is
people.
So much food, yeah.
Right.
They're,
Super awesome.
But you guys also do a Guava Tart beer, Berliner
Yeah.
Weiss.
Yeah, we, you know,
guys-
obviously we did a ton of Berliners and stuff like that where I was at before. So we,
There was a peach, there was a plum,
yeah,
there was
these
a
guys
pineapple.
were
there
already
was-
doing it, so I just
Yeah.
kept going with it. And this Guava Tart, there was guava puree in the cooler when I started, so that was what we did on the first one. And then there's some cherry in there too that we'll use up, and then we'll just start kind of rotating through them. I'd like to kind of involve some local ingredients at some point here, like, you know, foraging around like a hippie in the woods and stuff.
Well, and you guys do a lot of things with local I don't even know what you'd call it, but you
Oh,
do
they
like
have
the
the,
painting. You do, you
yeah.
know, the cupcake
We also have
pairings. You do the.
they
I
have
just
the
saw one
farmers
of
market thing.
yeah, the
Yeah.
vegetable pair. Like there's just you guys do so much with the local community. What's going on? And you can keep up with all of that on their Facebook page as well as their Instagram page, Groundswell Brewing Company. That's the best way to keep up with everything that's going on because they always have really, really great events, programs going on at all 3 tasting rooms. Paul, do you have any other questions to ask Giggles
Being so
over
quiet
here?
over there.
Well, you said you had a hazy beer next. What's
So we did. That's what I was getting. Right when I started, I asked the bartenders, what do people come in when they say? Because I hadn't spent a lot of time at Groundswell before that. I didn't even know that they had been in Santee as long as they had. And then they said, everybody, you got anything hazy? You got anything hazy? You got anything hazy? So there's the name. That's an easy one, right?
Yeah.
Got anything hazy? And it'll drive the bartenders nuts, and I'm all for that. So
It's amazing how you brewers like to drive us beer tenders nuts, but
you guys are
What
over
else
there on
would
the
you
other
guys
side of the
do?
glass.
yeah, they're on that side.
But yeah, it's just I mean it's it's your typical hazy kind of. I've made it once and then I made it again. I made some changes this time. What I'll do is I'll keep the name the same all the time, and then it'll change a little bit. But we'll
Rotate different hop varieties through there.
different hop varieties, maybe even change up the grist a little bit. But we'll always tell people, let people know, and then maybe if one's really good, we can revisit it and stuff like that. But first time I did it, it's just it's oats and wheat and 2-row, and that's mostly it. And then it was Galaxy, Mosaic, and Citra with Galaxy taking the lead in that one. And so I made it again. People really liked it the first time. So the second time, it's even a little bit more thick. It's got a little more viscosity. I added a little more hops. It's hard not to add more hops. Like, oh, well, I could add this or I could add all of this. So it's definitely, I like that style. I really like that style.
That was going to be my next question.
Wow, I feel like you're the first brewer that I've met that openly, we didn't even have to prompt it. You just said, I like that style.
If it tastes good, it's hard not to like, and so there's it's like everything. There's good ones and there's bad ones, and there's good lagers, bad lagers. There's, I like the good ones. I like to think that hopefully I'm making ones that are good, but I just, it's everything has a place, and now there's a category for it, which I'm sure really burns some people's ass, but
whatever.
They'll
get over it.
I also, I'm not that old, but I'm sure that I'm old enough. I remember when people thought that West Coast IPA was maybe just another fad, and that's not really an IPA. It's not even.
And people thought session pale IPAs were just pale ales.
Yeah. And it's like, so if you're trying really hard and you're applying all the same amount of attention to that as you are any other style you're making, I feel like and you can be proud of it, then I'm all for it. But if somebody's just pushing it out and trying to do it because it's popular, that's always been the way everything is. There's always going to be the really good ones, the really bad ones. Hopefully mine is middle to top middle.
Well, based on what we've had today, it's definitely in the top tier.
It looks like orange juice, so that's
What more do you need?
fine.
So you're halfway there, right?
Right on. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for
thank you.
coming on Beer for Breakfast ABV with us. As always, thanks, Paul. Came down to your neck of the woods today.
It's a fun tasting room. It's a good hang. Beers are good.
He's like a celebrity down here, if you didn't know.
Wow.
We've had people stop.
I went to high school a few miles away.
It took him a half an hour to get across the
Right.
street.
He is Mr. Chula Vista.
I don't know about that.
But yes, we are at Groundswell Brewing Company. We are at the Chula Vista location right now. There's also a location in Santee as well as Grantville. So no matter where you are, you can get a delicious Groundswell Brewing beer. And thanks for hanging out with us. You can hear the on-air version of Beer for Breakfast every Friday morning at 8:45. Paul comes into the Moog Show, and we teach John and Jared what they should be drinking as well as you this weekend. So thank you very much, and cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me talk at you.
Yeah.